listeners, welcome to the sky this month for June 2021. My name is Joe Grida. I'm the Technical Information Officer for the Astronomical Society of South Australia. So what have we got coming up this month? A very, very chilly month. Let's draw the curtains and see what's up in the sky. Let's have a look at our overhead view of the entire night sky. Getting pretty chilly now with winter, so I don't expect that we'll be able to spend as much time out there as what we've become used to during summer and autumn. But let's hope we can still get a few clear nights to enjoy the winter Milky Way, which is directly over our head. And of course, when we're looking at a winter Milky Way here, the greatest part of the Milky Way is the center of our galaxy. So looking in the direction of Scorpius and Sagittarius, we're looking directly into the center of the Milky Way galaxy, about 30,000 light years away. But before we spend more time with the winter sky, let's just have a look at what's happening over in the west, because a lot of these stars that have kept us entertained during autumn are slowly fading away from us. Regulus in Leo, you can see that Leo is starting to put his head down the northwestern horizon. Hydra, the longest constellation in the whole sky, even though the head of Hydra is already well set, you can still trace Hydra all the way up almost to overhead as such a long constellation. As we head around towards the southwest, we've now lost Canis Major and Sirius. We got Canopus low on our southwestern horizon. He doesn't quite set for Adelaide, so as the stars rotate around the south celestial pole here, you'll find that Canopus will just almost graze the southern horizon and then start coming up again. Over in the south, the large and small Magellanic Clouds are about a third of the way up the night sky. You'll be able to see these if you go away from any bright lights. But if you're in the middle of the suburbs with lighting all around you, they're going to be difficult to see. Over in the southeast, Tucana and Grus, especially Grus the Crane, that's starting to rise up into the southeastern sky for us, and he'll be better placed for us in another month or so, early in the evening. Time flies. You've got Sagittarius and Scorpius here, and Capricornus, which I always, and Aquila, which I always treat as sort of early spring constellations, are already appearing low in the eastern sky. And with Capricornus comes Saturn, what I call the glamourpuss of the solar system. A beautiful set of rings on it. You've got to see them through a telescope. I can't wait until Saturn rises a little bit higher up in the sky in the early evening, so I can start training my telescope on it. Over in the north, we've got very popular constellations in the northern hemisphere, like Hercules, Corona Borealis, the northern crown. Again, in a dark sky, that does make a really nice little curved line of stars. We do have a southern crown as well, Corona Australis, which is not clearly marked on this map, but you can see the curving line of stars here. This is Corona Australis. Again, just like its northern counterpart, you really need to be in a dark sky to be able to see those stars. Of course, Scorpius, the Scorpion, is high up in the sky, probably one of the most recognizable constellations in the sky, after our own Southern Cross and perhaps Orion, the hunter, in the summer. Of course, we got Boots, the herdsman, over here with Arcturus, very bright orange star, which is very easy to see in the northern sky. Everything else is quite faint around there, so Arcturus stands out really, really well. Higher up in the sky, now heading towards the northwest, we got Virgo, along with its bright star Speaker, and as I said earlier, Leo the Lion is now starting to make a dive into the northwestern horizon. Let's move on. The moon for June 2021. The dark sky period is now from June 1, so in a day or so, right through to the middle of June, where the moon is going through its last quarter, through to a new moon, and then increasing in brightness again into a thin crescent early in the evening, around about mid-May. By the 16th, when we have a nearly a 5-day-old moon, the moon's brightness will start to wash out some of the fainter objects in the night sky. So you might as well then change your observing habits to the moon and double stars. The phases here, last quarter on the 2nd of June, new on the 11th, first quarter on the 18th, and full again on June the 25th. I've got a real challenge for you for my lunar feature for the month. I'm not asking you to go find a particular crater or mountain range on the moon. This time, I'm going to ask you to observe a very tiny chain of craters called the Davy crater chain. You can see here it's almost right in the middle of the moon's face that looks towards us, and just past moon is at first quarter here, so just past first quarter is when this area will be illuminated. So this will be the best time to look at it. Here's an enlargement of the area. There's the crater chain. You may just be able to see it on your screen. I can see it on mine. A little tiny row of craters just there. We'll talk about those in just a second. You can see roughly where we are on the moon. There's a straight wall, a crater, Ptolemaeus, right here. So before we start hunting for the crater chain, let's just explore this region. I've already pointed out the straight wall for you. The straight wall is about 110 kilometers long, and whilst it looks very sharp and well defined, as if it's a cliff face, it is actually quite a shallow slope, only an inclination of about 7 degrees. The more prominent craters, Ptolemaeus here, Alphonsus, and Eclipse, right here. The crater Alphonsus, this one here, just around where my mouse pointer is now, it is the crash landing site of the Ranger 9 spacecraft that landed or crash landed there on the 24th of March, 1965. As I said, here is Eclipse, and very famous, a crater named after a very famous gentleman here. This is Herschel Crater, named after William Herschel, the man who discovered the planet Uranus, and also discovered and catalogued over 2,500 nebulae and galaxies, many of which us amateur astronomers have great delight in looking at. Of course, we're sitting here on the edge of Mare Nubium, the Sea of Clouds. I've mentioned Rupes Rector, the straight wall just there, and across the other side, on the other shore, is the crater Bullialdus. Just to give you an idea of sizing here, the diameter of this crater is 61 kilometers in diameter, and it's over 3,500 meters deep. So that's I'd love to be standing on the edge of that crater, looking down. Let's zoom in on this area here to have a look at the crater chain that I'm talking about. There you see it. There's the Davy crater. The straight wall is back down here. And there's the little chain of craters that I'm talking about, the Davy crater chain. I think they've counted 23 of them. Yeah, 23 craters, all in a line. So what could have caused this sort of feature where you got all these craters one after the other in a line? It's probably an impact by a comet or an asteroid or something like that, which came close to the moon. I think more a comet, because comets are more loosely bound and therefore much easier for the moon to pull apart. And of course, as the moon is rotating and different bits of this comet are impacting the moon, so you get this chain of craters. Of course, we saw a similar event back in 1994 when comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 impacted on Jupiter, and we could also follow the different bits of the comet as they were impacting into the clouds of Jupiter. Now, this isn't the only crater chain on the moon. They're actually referred to as catenas, the Latin for chain. There are quite a number of them. There's another one very close to this region, which is the Muller crater chain. But I'll keep that challenge for another time for you. And Galileo spacecraft that went to the Jupiter system some years ago also found similar crater chains to what we see here on Jupiter's moon, Ganymede. So do have a go. It's not going to be all that difficult for you to see it. Here's a drawing made by somebody using a 12-inch telescope at 240 times, and you can see some of the craters appearing there. So it's not an impossible challenge for you. I know that our astro imagers would have no trouble imaging this area and picking that up, but I really would love to hear from anyone who manages to see these visually. Just don't be afraid to employ some magnification. This one here was done at 240 times, so you do need to bring up the power. But, you know, some of these craters are only about 2 kilometers across. So it really shows you how much fine detail you can discern on a good steady night and plenty of magnification. For this month, I'd suggest that you go out there around about the 19th or the 20th of June, when you've got about a 8 to 9 day old moon. So good luck with that, and please do let me know if you managed to see it visually. And here's a view from Apollo 12 when it flew over the area back in 1969. And talking of things lunar, I hope that many of you got to see the Astronomical Society's lunar eclipse live stream on the 26th of May. Fortunately, for many of the Adelaide viewers who were completely clouded out, we had one of our members at Bendigo who was streaming when I took this snip out of our live stream. You can see the beautifully eclipsed moon there. You can watch the replay, the entire 2 hours of the eclipse and the discussions on ASSA's YouTube channel. I encourage you to do that. Okay, so what's happening with the planets during... oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to change the heading. That should read June 2021. The diagrams are correct, just my heading is incorrect. As we look at the inner solar system here, don't forget the planets all move around in their orbits in an anti-clockwise direction on this map. So we can see that Venus is now coming out from behind the sun and is starting to show itself in our evening sky, becoming our evening star. Mars is still visible in our evening sky, and we'll talk about both Venus and Mars very shortly. Mercury, don't forget, he's going this way. So very soon he'll be passing in front of the sun for us. So he's reaching what we call inferior conjunction. Mercury will be directly between the sun and the Earth, and is not visible to us. He'll reappear in the morning sky sometime towards the end of June. As we head towards the outer solar system, you can see Jupiter, Saturn are now starting to appear for us in our evening sky. Jupiter is rising around about 10 o'clock it's Saturn is rising around about 10 o'clock. Jupiter is rising around about midnight at the beginning of June, and Neptune is is a morning object. We won't be able to see that. I think it rises around about 1 o'clock in the morning. And Uranus is definitely a very early morning object. It's in Aries and it rises just before 5 o'clock. So not really nicely placed for viewing this month, but certainly nicely placed for viewing, as long as you have a nice clear northwestern horizon on the 12th of June. The Moon and Venus will only be 2 degrees apart from each other. The Moon will be a very thin crescent, having been a new moon a day or so before. So it'll be a very thin crescent, very low in the sky. You can see the glow of sunset there. The Moon will only be 5 degrees above the horizon. So make sure that you get out there. Make sure you have a very clear western horizon. A beachside view would be perfect. And if you grab a pair of binoculars, you'll be able to catch, as I said, the very thin crescent moon and the planet Venus in the same field of view. Only 2 degrees apart, so a pair of binoculars will show these together very, very easily. On the 24th of June, we've got Mars in Cancer, and Mars actually passes in front of the Beehive open cluster. Let's have a closer look at that. This was set up for the 23rd of June, as Mars is traveling in this direction. So this is on the 23rd of June. On the 24th of June, it'll just be sitting over here. It should make a very pretty sight in binoculars, or perhaps even a very low power view in a telescope. It'd be great if you can get the entire Beehive cluster in the same field of view. All of these little stars with nice orange-red Mars in front of them. And if you see carefully here, I'm not going to challenge you to do this, but see these little red ellipses? These are all background galaxies way behind the Beehive cluster, many millions of light years away, far in the background. Perhaps one of our images might like to try and image Mars, the Beehive cluster, and then some of those galaxies in the background. I think it should be a really nice binocular or low power telescope view. Double star for the month. This month is Gamma Virginis in Virgo. It's a pair of two stars, almost absolutely identical in magnitude. One is 3.6, the other one is 3.56. So not a heck of a lot of difference between them, and they are both the same type of star, spectral type F0. A slightly bigger and brighter and younger than our sun, but they do have a very elliptical orbit, as you can see from the orbit diagram here. When Jeremy Perez drew this telescope view, he did it back in 2008, when the two stars were very close to each other. As you can see here, this is where they were in 2008. We're now in 2020, so we're back down here somewhere. So much larger separation between the two stars. So it shouldn't be too difficult for most people to have a look at it. As always, employ as much magnification as you need to make sure that you can see the two stars separated by a little tiny bit of black sky between them. They take around about 170 years to revolve around each other, and they're 39 light years away. So really not that far. They're within our neighbourhood, and because they're bigger and brighter than our own sun, they're also younger, at only just over 1 billion light years. So only about a quarter the age of our own sun. So where do you find them? Here you go. This is a view looking northwest. This was set up for the 15th of June. You can see the moon, the setting moon there. And here we go. Here's a Spica, the brightest star in Virgo. And if you come down and to the left of Spica, this is Gamma Virginis, or to use its proper name as agreed to by the International Astronomical Union. It's now known as Parvo. You can see Leo down here, and Arcturus over to the right. So go and have a look at Parvo. You will need a decent sized telescope, at least I'd say a 6-inch Newtonian or a good 4-inch refractor, and make sure you bump up the magnification to about 200, so you can separate those two stars. But they're a nice pair to have a look at, and they'll both look yellowish white. A G-type star, which is what our sun is a yellow sun. F stars, being slightly brighter and hotter, will shine a little bit whiter than our sun. So yellowish white color is what you'll see for both of those stars. For a deep sky object this month, I've chosen the Globular Cluster Ngc 6752 in the southern constellation of Parvo the Peacock. This is one of the great globular clusters. It's the 4th brightest in the sky. Aren't we lucky here in the southern hemisphere that we've got all 4 of the brightest globular clusters all visible to us in the southern hemisphere? Omega Centauri 47 Tuc, M22 in Sagittarius, and NGC 6752 in Parvo. It was discovered by James Dunlop, operating out of Parramatta Observatory in just out of Sydney on the 30th of June in 1826. Now, James Dunlop has lots of discoveries in the southern sky as well, and he's especially well known for many of the double stars in our southern sky. This is one of the closer globular clusters at only 13,000 light years away. It's the 8th closest. If you remember from last month, M4 in Scorpius, very near to Antares, is the closest globular cluster to us at just over 7,000 light years. And this is classified as a class 6 globular cluster. The core of the cluster is fairly densely packed. The stars, the separation between the stars there is just over 1 light year on average. When you consider that Alpha Centauri is over 4 light years away from us, that's 1.3 light years, is pretty close. This is a spectacular sight through a telescope. It is almost as large as a full moon. So you do need a relatively low magnification in order to be able to get it all into the field of view. And if you go out in a really dark sky, you might just be able to pick it out with the naked eye. And as an extra bonus, this star here, which is Hipparcos 94918, in the foreground, is actually a double star composed of a magnitude 7.7 and a magnitude 9.2 star with a separation of 2.8 arc seconds. Now that's reasonably close. So again, you're going to need a fair amount of magnification to be able to separate those two. So where do you find that? Using my favourite planetarium program, Stellarium, looking over towards the southeast, there's Grida Crane that we saw earlier on our all-sky map, very low in the sky. As we come up higher from there, we come across Parvo the Peacock. You can see the peacock's feathers there, and there is NGC 6752, the globular cluster, right in the middle of the tail of the peacock. Let's just remove those constellation figures so that we get a slightly clearer and easier, cleaner map for you to find it. So right here, there's the tail of the peacock. There's NGC 6752 in Parvo. It just so happens that not that far up from it, we've got NGC 6397 in Ara, another beautiful globular cluster for you to have a look at. So have a look at those. Whilst you're in Parvo, I do need to remind you that there are over 280 galaxies within the Parvo constellation that are reachable with our amateur telescopes. So, don't get obsessed with spending all of your time in Virgo looking at galaxies. There are lots of galaxies in Parvo as well for you to look at. And as an example, NGC 6744, it's glorious, almost face-on spiral galaxy. Observe this from a dark sky. It is quite a nice view, and thank you to Paul Hazy, who created this image of NGC 6744. Now, I'm sure that this and quite a number of other galaxies will be featured during our Winter Observing Targets ASSA at Home presentation on the 18th of June. I and Paul Martinitis will run through our favourite observing targets for you on the 18th of June. So tune in for that if you can. As I just mentioned earlier, Stellarium, my favourite planetarium program. I use it for absolutely everything, including presentations to school kids and everyone else in between. You can get it for any platform that you're likely to want to use it on. You can also use a web version if that's easier for you, but I always encourage you to download that. It's free. All right, if you have any questions, please, there's my email address. Do email me. Do let me know if you've seen the Davy crater chain. I'd love to see an image from someone as well. But in between, there's various ways that you can keep in contact with the Astronomical Society. You can get your latest information on the activities either from our website. You can watch our YouTube channel for this and other presentations, including the Lunar Eclipse live stream if you missed it the other night. You can keep up to date on what's happening through our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter feeds as well. So thank you for watching. I wish you luck in getting out there. Don't get too cold, and do some observing during these chilly winter nights. Thank you.